And right now I'm going to turn the comms over to Nate Brown. Nate Brown is our new state organizing director. And Nate is a grandson, a son, and a brother here in Central Ohio of public educators. He's a product of Ohio's local schools and public university system. While organizing for the Ohio Organizing Collaborative and ACLU Ohio, he worked on issue campaigns. Get a load of this, all of the different work that Nate has done. He's organized around post-industrial housing crisis, human trafficking, pretrial reform, the death penalty, reproductive rights, and now education. Now, in his free time, if you can imagine that he has any free time, he also studied and taught writing and literature at public colleges in Idaho, Texas, and Ohio in order to help students understand the power of their own stories and lived experiences. And like any good organizer, he's also studied closely all of those levels of power. And he believes that the attacks on our students, their families, and public education system is an attack on our democracy's foundation. And the story of our response is to be written by us. So I am so happy to introduce you to Nate Brown, who's going to tell you all about our local organizing. Nate?
Thank you, Cynthia. Made me feel very important, much more important than I am. And thank you, everyone who's a Lunch and Learn regular. This is my first one with Honesty. It's really exciting. I came on in August, and so have been learning a lot, and am happy to be joining the fray with all of you. So yeah, today we're talking about Honesty's organizing and Honesty's efforts to build power from the ground up. The goal of Honesty organizing is to fight for education justice by building power at the local school district level that connects at the statewide level, right? These things are kind of paradoxes at times, but all politics is local, and all power, if it's going to be sustainable, is locally rooted. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build for the long haul. Part of what I've been doing in these first 2 months is studying the different models of organizing that are out there and figuring out where is Honesty best suited to start. What is the type of organizing that meets the organization, that meets the coalition, and that meets the moment. And so what we've arrived at is a model that is a hybrid of two different models, one called distributed leadership and the other known as relational organizing. And I'll explain a little bit about those here on the next slide. So distributed leadership, this is creating a space for grassroots leaders to find community, access training and resources, and strategize with others across the state. Local leadership takes action in their districts and reports back to the statewide team. So this is people coming together, coming to a central, mostly digital location these days, and then going out and doing the work themselves. And then the second model that's part of our hybrid is relational organizing. So this, you all may have heard like Valinsky style organizing, lots of one-to-ones, individual relationships making up the organizing. So that would be Honesty staff or our grassroots leadership as it develops, really focusing on building local power through intentional one-to-one relationships and leadership development. Those one-to-one relationships and leadership development are the core of relational organizing. Now, what we're doing is we are picking the best from both worlds, and we are combining them together so that we can meet the needs of a state with 611 local school districts. Yes, 611, and meeting the needs of those in all of these districts who want to organize for education justice, while also, and this is where the relational side comes more into play, being able to intentionally reach out to hotspot communities where the need is urgent. We all see newspaper headlines popping up across the state where hate is rearing its ugly head, and Honesty wants to be able to make a difference in those communities, even if those communities aren't aware that Honesty even exists, right? And so the more the organizing matures, the more the grassroots leadership and staff capacity increases, the more intentional we're going to be able to be. And so we are going to grow this movement in local communities across Ohio. We're going to be focusing on education, and organizing can often be broken down into kind of 3 words: agitate, educate, organize, right? And we are going to be doing a lot of education in communities about what honest, inclusive education means, about what things like the whole child framework mean, affirming practices, student rights and safety, school governance and operations. This is all information we want to share, gospels we want to spread. And it's going to be building meaningful collaborative partnerships with school districts and communities, and responding to issues, and responding to those issues that are popping up, or incidents, or more consistent happenings, to ensure safe, fair, and informed school board elections, to try to repel the hate that is coming in. And so these local teams, they are going to be all around the state. And as we go forward, we will very likely be developing regional cohorts, because there are often issues that are, fairly universal in a given geographic area. And so that can be helpful. And these local teams, they're going to be made up of people just like us. So students, families, educators, community organizations and groups, businesses, other honesty partners. But the core of this is going to be the community, right? These local teams are local. They are people on the ground who go to school, who go to church, who go to the same grocery stores together, and they are going to be deciding what happens in their district and what their organizing will look like. Now, the distributed model that we are going to be working with is something that we are getting from some really great partners. There's the Heal Together Network. It's a national network that has been coming together around education issues. And I just got back actually on Sunday night from a national convening of advocates in North Carolina. More than 100 advocates from all around the country who went there to learn about this organizing model and to see how it can apply in their state. And this was hosted by Down Home, North Carolina. So they are an organization in North Carolina that is multi-issue, but they have really gotten into education over the last year and have been demonstrating this distributed model that I'll explain here a little more. So what they are doing, as I said, they've got a central hub. They have an organizer that is kind of the core of the overall campaign that they call Public School Strong. And what they are doing is serving as a hub, right, of information, of training, of guidance, of tips. And what the product is are teams popping up all around North Carolina. So these slides that they shared with us are, I believe, maybe a month old. At the conference that where I was this past weekend, they were sharing the latest data. And so what you're seeing here, they had over 30 teams. So that's in North Carolina, that's 30 counties, and 30 of about 110 school districts. It's a product of desegregation, and their districts and counties line up in a very convenient way. So what you are seeing there, and this is, again, a couple months old, I think their numbers are closer to 60 teams now. That's over a third of the state, or about a third of the state, I should say, represented in 30 teams. That's in less than a year that this effort has taken off, right? And now they're already up to in the 50s. And so that's half of the state that they have teams operating in already. Go to the next slide. And so the way they're defining teams, and I think it's a fair way to define teams, is at least 2 people, right? It's hard to say a team of 1, though I'm definitely happy to work with any individuals who are getting started, and I can help you figure out how to build out that team. So the way they're defining it is at least 2 people who are attending school board meetings, who have been part of their trainings, and who are representing the campaign and the organization, wearing their public school strong shirts and sharing updates. So those updates are shared back with the statewide effort, back with the down home organization. And so you have information coming in from teams at local district meetings all across the state, right? There are things happening all across Ohio, and it is not really being gathered in any central location. We're trying to build the beginning of that right here. The strategic goals are to show support for honest, accurate, safe, equitable, and fully funded public schools. So remember, this is the HEAL Down Home North Carolina Public Schools Strong campaign. They are aiming to collect data. So they're looking for patterns, threats, so that they can plan and coordinate their responses. They're trying to get more people involved across the state so they can keep building as they go into 2024. And they're going to strategize together and take action as needed. So they have a central place where everybody's coming together online, and then they are seeding these teams of interested grassroots leaders that are germinating all around the state. And those teams are starting to mature into full-on meetings, organizations themselves. And we can go ahead to the next slide. Thank you. So again, this is a couple months old, and yeah, early August, and already early August they had 61 counties in some stage of participation. So look at that map. That's fantastic. And so these are the good things, right? They say never try to reinvent something that's already working well, like the wheel. We are trying to copy some of the best designs we've seen for wheels around the country. And we want an Ohio map to start looking like this heading into 2024, right? Go ahead to the next slide. So you may ask, like, what is the sort of information that these teams are out there gathering? So very simply, by going to school board meetings, you are doing something incredibly useful. You are providing intel on the ground, and you as a local grassroots leader are learning for yourself. What are the mechanisms of the school board? Who's there? Who speaks? Who comments? Who's sitting in the audience every other week? Right? Who are the people like you who are engaged and interested? Those are people you want to know. So they have a monthly reporting form that the teams generate and send back into the statewide group. So they look for basics on the meeting, who is attending, what sort of numbers. So are we seeing people in other t-shirts popping up? People that may have values that run counter to ours. Section 3, so what was discussed? What were the agenda items? What is going on in the public comments? What is the public interested in? What are buzzwords that you're hearing repeatedly? And then section 4, and that's more of a static item, but who's on the school board and where do they stand, right? This can change though from bi-weekly meeting or monthly meeting to monthly meeting. Starting to accumulate this data allows local leaders to understand the story of their school district and the story of the state, right? We capture these things in numbers in quantitative ways, and we also capture these things in qualitative ways, right? What are the words being used? What is the tenor of the conversation? Okay, we can go next.
Hi, folks. I just got a note that there's this awful message up on the screen sharing. I'm going to pause real quick and see if I can get rid of that because it's probably very distracting. Let me try again.
And I'll check here for any questions in the chat.
Okay.
And
So
Cynthia, it's super tiny, so don't even stress about it. It's super small.
Okay.
I promise you, if it was a Target ad or something, we would have told you sooner.
Okay. All right, let me try and get back here.
And I think I'm seeing a comment in the chat. Is that Amy? Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Yes, I would love to talk to you. And we're gonna, in a few slides here, we'll be talking about kind of these introductory organizing trainings and meetings. And so we'll be inviting everybody who's coming into Honesty's network to participate. And that's gonna be the kernel from which this grows.
Sorry, folks, it looks like I can't get rid of that graphic. I'm so sorry. We're gonna go ahead and keep pushing forward here for sake of time.
That's okay, Cynthia. It's all good. Wait, one back, I think here.
Oh, okay.
So this is another component of the distributed organizing, the work that they're doing in North Carolina. So if we are doing distributed organizing and you all are interacting with me, Nate, through a lot of Zoom meetings and trainings to start, right? Because there's only one Nate and there's 611 school districts. How can we be talking to each other more consistently, right? There are going to be things that happen between bi-weekly organizing meetings and trainings. There are going to be things that happen that it would be really useful for you to talk to other community members and bypass Nate, from Honesty or other organizers. So what they've done in North Carolina, they've created a Facebook group. So Honesty uses Signal, which is another kind of online forum application or platform. We will want to decide as an early organizing team, how do we want to communicate with each other? What is the online space where we want to be able to gather, share tips, share crazy things that are happening in our district all of a sudden, and we want to be able to talk to somebody else who may understand. Go ahead to the next slide. And I guess I should note, look, they had 327 people in their group. Isn't that cool? Less than a year, right? 327 people all across the state. So the way we are looking at getting started, how are people going to become part of the Honesty team and become themselves a local Honesty team? For example, Honesty for Dublin, or Honesty for Marysville, or Honesty for Chagrin Falls. We're kind of copying, again, some of these great schematics that Heal Together and Down Home North Carolina have created. So we are going to be starting with trainings this month. So they will begin, I think, 2 weeks from this past Wednesday, or a week from this coming Wednesday, I should say. That will get you into the system, right? We will know your name, you're coming, and you're starting to get the initially important skills and concepts that we're trying to get out there. We will be hooking people up with Honesty organizing t-shirts going into November, like they're doing in North Carolina. We will ask people to take the following steps because they seem really smart to us. Start attending your local school board meetings, right? This one seems obvious, but it's incredibly important. We're going to ask people to do those monthly reports, right? To be sharing information so that we know what's going on. And then we want people to be attending the statewide organizing meetings and trainings. And finally, and this is part of the skills and trainings that we'll be doing, we want to empower you to be organizing others in your community, right? This all depends on you. We are a hub. We are a set of resources. I'm somebody who's organized for years, and so I can tell you some of what's worked and what hasn't, but ultimately it's going to be up to you all to organize in your community. I can't do it. I'm not a local to 610 different school districts, right? We need you all on the ground leading the way. We can go ahead to the next. Thank you. And so here is a very rough version of our timeline. This is looking about 6 months out, and what you see up here is by no means all of what will be happening. These are just kind of the highlights and the larger rhythms that we're trying to move through. So in October, like I said, we're kicking off with lunch and learns, with trainings and the beginnings of our statewide teams coming together. We will be doing trainings on candidate research that I'll talk more about here in just a second. Letters to the editor and entering the public discourse. And then finally, GOTV, getting out the vote. November is real. It is important. It's where everything is decided. Coming into November, you better get out and vote. And we, as an organizing team, will be getting into kind of organizing essentials as far as topics go, and, the core of which being relationship building. And at that point too, we will be introducing the local team reports, and people are coming to us. We're going to start getting through that process together. It will be something that we will most likely trial and error, right? We will have an initial reporting form that we can design and ratify together. But I'm sure we will learn stuff and see things on the ground that will make us think differently. And so this is all going to be an evolving process where we, as a team, from the grassroots up, are figuring it out together, figuring out what works best in Ohio. Heading into December, we are going to be thinking about our listening campaign. So this is a deeper organizing topic, but a fundamental of the organizing cycle is listening. We need to listen before we speak so that we can learn and hear the people who know what's going on. So we will, of course, be continuing training and team building, and then looking at the winter of 2024, which is creepy to say out loud, but it is only 3 months away from here now. And that is when we will be kicking off this listening campaign in earnest. So that will be me, it will be other Honesty Coalition staff or consultants or whomever. We will be out and doing listening sessions, and then you all, the grassroots, you will be putting on listening sessions in your community. They can be anything from a Zoom meeting to a house meeting to something at like a public hall, whatever it is. We'll have a full set of resources and guides, questions we'll develop together to get everybody through the process. But that is truly step one in building a real organizing network, is listening. And it is a great way to invite people into a conversation with us. People have a lot on their mind, right? Things that are frustrating them, things that are scaring them, things that are giving them hope about their local schools. How do we know what's on their mind? We ask them to tell us. We ask them to come together to a session where community members together share what's on their mind. And as everybody shares what's on their mind, in a space that we build with trust, we start to identify common threads, right? It's those common threads that start to surface through listening that become issue campaigns, that become things we want to move on, things that we want to devote resources to. So that's up to you all to be out in the community and help us surface what is going on around the state. Coming up is this slate of trainings that we are targeting around the election. We want to prepare honesty volunteers and people who are following along with Honesty's work to be able to be an informed voter and help others to be an informed voter and to engage in the community. So our first session will be on the 18th. And with all of these, we've got our registration here, the bit.ly, and I'm sure Sam is sharing it in the chat. Please register, and please share these around. Invite your friends, invite your family, invite other people you've met in the community who are equally interested or angry about what's going on in their schools. The 18th will be candidate research. The 25th will be entering the public conversation. So letters to the editor, for example, editorials, even communicating with elected officials. And then on the 1st of November, we will be talking GOTV, right? So this is the week before the election, and we will be walking you through some real key steps and best practices for getting other people out to vote. School board races are incredibly important, and the balance of power is determined often by a handful of votes, right? So every vote is important. So we'll be talking GOTV the week before. Now, getting into those school board elections. So we've got some key dates here that I just want to highlight real quick while we're on the topic. So the election is on the 7th. Make sure you are spreading the word. Make sure you're letting people know that if they need to be able to carve out some time in their day to get out to vote, block off that hour on their calendar, whatever is necessary. Now is the time to start thinking about that. These are part of those GOTV plans, right? Remember that, so we've passed our voter registration deadline, or no, wait, I'm sorry. Today is the 6th. Our voter registration deadline is coming up on Tuesday, forgive me. And military and overseas voting runs through the 6th. Early in-person voting starts next Wednesday, running through November 5th. Absentee and absentee drop-off, or I should say mail-in and drop-off, both start on the 11th as well. Mail-in runs through the 6th, and drop-off goes through Election Day itself. Why do school board elections matter? Goodness. So I came to honesty. I've done some educational organizing in the past. It was more at a statewide kind of policy level, impacting local work up in Youngstown. And I have learned, I knew school board elections were important, but goodness, I have learned how they are woven into the fabric of our communities, and they are incredibly important. They determine student wellness, the curriculum, budget, staffing, facilities, transportation, building safety. They serve as a voice for the community. They supervise, hire, and dismiss the superintendent. They allocate the all-important funding. They protect the freedom to learn or censor education and enforce book bans, right? So they have the power to do good, and they have the power to do bad. They can help us embrace all races, cultures, and identities, or they can allow the targeting of vulnerable, marginalized children to happen. They can value and support teachers and staff, or attack and drive educators away. They're involved in your local libraries. They surface future state representatives and state senators and state office holders. They are incredibly important. They are largely the biggest employer in any given community. School boards are incredibly valuable, and we need to take them seriously. So this is a resource that Cynthia and others, but mostly Cynthia, has been key to assembling for us on the Honesty website. This is a good one-stop shop for people who are interested in learning more about the school board elections. I don't know about you all, but I hear more and more people talking about this. It is a newsworthy item. People are paying attention to school board races like never before. That includes the national political organizations, and it includes local media, and it includes then your friends and family, right? People are paying attention. How can they get informed? This is a great place to go. And again, I'm sure Sam is sharing a direct link. So I'm going to talk a little more specifically here real quick, just a quick intro to our school board candidate action guide. We're going to get into this in much more detail at our training in 2 weeks. So please do attend. We will be walking you through how to identify your local candidates if it hasn't already been done for you. We will walk you through how to research candidates and their endorsements. What are endorsements? What do they mean? What are these affiliations with different organizations? What does that suggest about the candidate? Right. And we will give you kind of a little bit of guidance and some tips about how to see the candidates in person, right? What are they saying when they're speaking to groups out in the community? Or are they somebody who's not speaking to the community? And what does that possibly mean? Finally, we'll be getting you to attend those school board meetings. You're hearing us repeat that, or hearing me repeat that, because it is incredibly important. We need to be there so that we can understand what's going on, and so that we can build those relationships with other interested parties. And finally, we will be walking you through how to assess candidates and create your own sample ballot. We're not telling you how to vote. We're telling you how to figure out how you want to vote. All right. And this is some kind of a more detailed look at the candidate guide, but I know we are getting close on time, Cynthia, so it's okay if we just kind of want to skip through it. as we said, helping you find your candidates. And so we have in there links to different resources. We've pulled information from all sorts of different places. Yes, and I know Sam will be linking to this in the chat as well. So no need to wait until the middle of October and our training to take a look at it. Please access it. Give it a read, share it around. There's a downloadable PDF. If you have questions, reach out to me. I know my email is in the chat, and I'll drop my phone number in there too when we're getting done. But all these steps are essential, and if we don't take them, if others don't take them, there are many voters who will either not vote for the school board races because they aren't paying attention and it's a little too granular for them. They don't realize what's going on at the school board level. And so this is incredibly helpful. Otherwise, they may vote for the wrong people if they vote at all. And so this is a necessary step for creating informed voters and for raising the alarm that school board races are no longer a sleepy event, right? 10 years ago, things were a little more calm. The assaults on education in such a targeted way yet to begin. Things are crazy now. School board races are incredibly important, and we need to take them as seriously as we do voting for our congressperson, senator, whatever it is. So please help others take that time to become informed voters.